Sure, when they're not. Yeah, you're gonna have it out. They are the meeting.
Well, they're having their meeting within the meeting.
Uh-uh.
All right, George, you can hear me? All right. All right, so we're going to start our meeting. Tonight is Tuesday, June 15th, 2021. This is our Town of Monroe Planning Board regular meeting. Noreen, would you please do roll call attendance?
Anthony Vaccaro.
Here.
Lisa McQuaid is absent. Bonnie Franson.
Present.
Jason Sarinsky.
Here.
Jeff Manson.
Here.
John Allegro.
Here.
Pat Shea.
Here.
All right, so with that, we have a quorum. We can conduct business. I'll point out the fire exits. There are two exits in front of me, one to the left, one to the right. There is another exit out this way through the double doors onto the patio. And then the main entrance through which everybody arrived this evening. With that, why don't we all please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to All right. First item on the agenda is Joel Stossel. You want to go? Oh. All right. Is your I mean, I don't mind, so it's okay with the board. Yeah. All right. So we will then take up agenda item 2.2, a Kestenbaum, 20 Allison Drive. And this is a returning project. You've been in front of us before. Not you, Dan, but others have been in front of us before. So welcome, and if you just state your names for the record.
Larry Toro, Civil Tech Engineering.
Daniel Richmond, Zarin and Steinmetz.
Joel Mann, Brachem and Associates.
All right, so would you like to give us an overview of where we are now in the process and any changes that have been made and how the site plan has evolved?
Sure. I'll give a brief presentation and then I can hand it over to Larry. Again, my name is Daniel Richmond with the law firm Zarin and Steinmetz. I understand that when this application was last before you, there was some ambiguity or some lack of clarity about what its intended use was. We are clearly say here tonight that this is for a school. The religious educational use is going to be a private religious school for girls ages 5 and 12, which is a use specifically authorized in the subject rural residential zone. The site exceeds the minimum requirements for schools, and the school will not exceed the maximum floor area ratio or development coverage requirements. The school is going to consist of about 10 classrooms. Classroom space will allow for a total occupancy of 125 people, consisting of about 115 children and 10 teachers. Pursuant to state building code requirements, the school would have 3 offices, which we use for the principal, the building manager, support staff. The school will be closed on Saturday and Sunday, generally operate from 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. on Monday through Thursday, and 8 a.m. to 1 p.m. on Friday. Students would arrive by bus. We anticipate about 4 buses for drop-off and pick-off times as depicted on the site plan, which Larry can walk you through. We propose safe and adequate off-street parking facilities and for school bus loading and unloading, including a bus turnaround area. The site's accessible to fire, police, and other emergency vehicles. The only parking that would be required on the site would be for its staff, and we would be requesting a waiver of the otherwise applicable parking requirements in light of the anticipated light parking requirements. Some of the school staff will arrive and depart on the buses, the others would van and carpool. So we think that, we're looking not to have the facility overparked. No food preparation would be conducted on site. Food for the students would be delivered by van with disposable dishes, and we're intending for the school to propose to connect to the municipal sewer system. We believe the school is on site, is in scale with the site, and is adequate screening and separation distances. We'll go through some of the comments. We did receive your engineer's comments. I noted he said that there should be some additional screening. Again, this site is already heavily wooded. We are going to be requesting certain additional waivers in addition to the parking requirements, which we think are appropriate in light of the religious and educational use. One of the requirements under the town code is that the school shall be chartered by the Board of Regents. However, as we pointed out in our letter, the New York State Department of Education is pretty clear that that step is not required for non-public schools that are affiliated with religious groups like this institution. This school is affiliated with Congregation Habonis. We also would be requesting, to the extent necessary, a waiver from the school frontage requirements. There's a requirement in your village code that it be located on a major collector street. The school actually, the property does have frontage on a major on Cromwell Hill Road. However, that is not going to be the primary ingress access point. That's not going to be used for any ingress or exiting or ingress or egress. But again, we believe that the light of the relatively benign traffic impacts this project would have, again, 4 buses and limited car traffic, we don't think this requirement is necessary to maintain the public health, safety, or welfare. Finally, one of the other conditions is that the schools should comply under the village code requirements with the manual of planning standards for school buildings. However, that manual is intended only to apply to public school buildings. Non-public schools are governed by the New York State Building Code, which again, we think compliance with the state building code is sufficient to maintain the public health, safety, and welfare. We'd be happy to answer any questions. Larry, I don't know if you want to walk them through the site plan or if there are any questions.
Either way, I mean, I think pretty much it touched on most of you. I think Dan had touched on most of the items. We did show, like it says, a connection to the municipal sewer. I know some of the comments from the engineer was additional details related to that connection. One of the other items may not have been pointed out, we did show a widening of the existing driveway. We're proposing it at 18 feet. This way here it allows us to leave the existing lighting in place and then widen it on the one side just along prior to the wood line. We had shown where the buses would be able to turn around once they drop off the students. That will be areas that will need to be paved. We did show where the 4 buses could queue on site and not impact, obviously, anything out on Allison Drive or any vehicles leaving the site. And I know there was some additional comments about information on the handicap accessibility, some more detail on that and whatnot. But I think that pretty much covers it. There was the trees within the easement area. We've shown those and indicated how many were to be removed. And that's where we're at.
So I think we'll start with Sean and your comments, and then we'll go to Ashley, and then we'll open it up to the board.
So the applicant did a good job covering a lot that has changed since the last time it was before the board. In my comments, I noted 4 of the items that they're requesting waivers from. We had talked about the Board of Regents charter. The applicant touched on the frontage on Cromwell Hill Road, which is one of the requirements of the special use permit. So we'll just have to discuss with Ashley, maybe do a little more research as to whether or not the existing frontage on Cromwell Hill, qualifies for that requirement. So then we'll have to research into the planning standards for building schools, which is a requirement that that all private schools or public schools meet. As part of the special use permit, as well as the screening, which the applicant had touched on. I realize this is set back quite a ways. I just, maybe the applicant could provide a few photos in each direction to see if, additional screening is necessary. No, I had previously taken some photos from the intersection of Maple Avenue and Cromwell Hill Road, and it seemed like the elevation during the wintertime was sufficient. You couldn't see the building, but I'm not able to, access the site to see if, additional screening is necessary from some of the residential neighbors on Allison Drive. Larry had indicated that the bus movement is shown on the plans. Some grading for that turnaround is shown. However, the pavement doesn't appear to be proposed for the bus to be able to make that movement. Larry had also touched on a few of the ADA items. I recognize that ADA isn't necessarily the purview of this board, but I just want to make sure that the site plan, could be, or a building plan after site plan approval could be issued. And we address those kind of now before we get too far along in the plan. Number 5, I had a few notes on the sewer, which, aren't anything I have to go over in great detail. Additionally, regarding the parking, they show future parking spaces as if required. 57-47F of the code allows the board to reduce the number of parking spaces. I don't know if there's a limit as to how far they can reduce it, but the applicant would have to bond for a minimum of 3 years those, the cost estimate for those improvements, so that in the event they are necessary, the town has some leverage, if you will, to force the applicant to construct those improvements. I know there's northern long-eared bat habitat noted on the EAF on the site, so, mitigation for, taking or potential taking of those species would have to be mitigated somehow.
Isn't that just the standard limitation on tree cutting?
That's right. That's, the standard mitigation is to limit when the trees can be cleared, or you can get an incidental taking permit. So, a public hearing will be.
Yeah, I would just add, we would customarily, as soon as some of these species get triggered, we would just send, as part of our circulation, if we do circulate and do coordinated, to DEC, just to get a letter that says, typically, especially for this kind of an application where there's really not tree cutting, they come back and say, just don't cut trees within this time period.
Right.
Because they see that if there's not extensive tree cutting, then that's going to be the response.
Right.
Yeah.
Public hearing is going to be required for the special use permit, and the application's unlisted. So, we should talk with Ashley whether we should go coordinated or uncoordinated.
Okay.
Okay, so as far as the letter, Dan, that you had submitted, you refer to the applicant as Congregation Habon's a corporation. Were you changing the name? Because currently the application papers, they're all by Kestenbaum or Kestenbaum. I don't know
think-
whether you were going to be submitting a revised application in the name of the corporation or...
We can change the application. The property is being owned by Kastenbaum, but I think that's the reason that the application was, but I'm not sure.
Right, I don't know, I wasn't involved in the original application. Sorry.
Otherwise, I hear nothing for minutes.
Can you hear me now? I don't know, I'm not familiar with the original application requirements, but again, as Mr. Mann has indicated, the property is owned by Mr. Kastenbaum, but the application is, so I guess if we need to fine tune the application requirements to indicate that it's Congregation Habonis as the applicant with the consent of the property owner, that shouldn't be.
Yeah, but I think it would make sense to probably just fill out, Yeah,
so
revise the
so
forms.
they'll consent to the application.
and I did look it up on the Secretary of State records, and I think the actual name of the corporation is Cong Habon, C-O-N-G, rather than Congregation. I don't know if that's,
Must just be an
something-
abbreviation.
that's what it said on those records, so you might want to check the certificate of incorporation for that and just be consistent. Floor plan that was submitted still shows a food prep area, but the letter says there's not going to be any food preparation on site, so just wanted some clarification on that.
Again, my understanding is there's not going to be any food prep on area. I don't know if that area is intended to mean for, again, when the food is dropped off and it's put onto disposable, plates for the kids, that I don't know if, there's another term we could use for that other than food prep that wouldn't, I guess, trigger the concern you're having.
Cut you off. John had brought up at, I think, the last meeting, whether or not DOH permit would be required for that, let's say, type of food service. I did reach out to County Health. They said typically for that type, permit would not be required, but do you mind if I share your contact information with them so that they can just get a little bit better understanding of the procedure?
Sure.
Okay. Just so they can reach out to you with questions, specific questions.
So again, just to clarify, so there's no cooking, there's
Right.
nothing being prepared, no raw food on site, it's being delivered ready food and just being prepared on
Right,
site.
and that's basically the information I relayed to them. They said, they don't think a permit would be required, but they just wanted to get a better understanding. So,
Okay.
all right?
Usually the bigger schools are having their own kitchen, it's worth it for them to have a cook and have someone on site, but this is a smaller school and it's not economical.
Maybe even just a note on the floor plan, then defining what the food preparation area is and saying it's not cooking, it's just limited to,
That's basically in the narrative, but we can add it to the floor plan too.
the EAF. I think Sean had noted in his comments, a couple of the revisions that were required, question 3 about disturbance, question 11 about the wastewater connection, and then also question 2 about the other agency approvals. It will require the Orange County Environmental Facilities and Services for the sewer connection, so they would be an involved agency. Talked about referring to Orange County DPW about the sewer. I saw you added, you marked off the trees that were going to be removed, but you have to meet the tree plan requirements under Town Code 5784, so you have to identify the type, size, and then replacement on a one-to-one basis, or if you're seeking some other basis or seeking a payment in lieu. That's all Section 5784. So as far as the waivers, this board has the ability to grant waivers in the event that such requirements are found not to be required in the interest of public health, safety, or general welfare, or inappropriate to a particular special use permit. So again, the waivers are for the special use permit for those criteria that are specific to the educational use. I think as far as the frontage, we want to talk to the building inspector, have him weigh in on whether that piece of abutting Cromwell Hill constitutes frontage, or if a waiver would be required. I think you indicated you'd be requesting the waiver in the alternative, so
Yeah.
it shouldn't be an issue.
Exactly.
As far as the landscaping, I know we talked about it a little. If you're relying on the existing landscaping, then that should be shown on the plans to say we already meet this with the existing, so we don't have to add. That's landscaping. It was under, I think, sub 7 and sub 8 in the criteria about screening the parking and screening adjacent properties. So if that's sufficient, just show it on the plan. As far as the parking requirements, no, I think you have a calculation there, but the parking requirements for schools, in addition to one space for employee, it also requires the parking for public assembly. So I think if you're requesting a waiver, it'd be helpful if you could calculate what the requirement would be, just so the planning board has an understanding of what waiver it would be granting. For our seeker, it's an unlisted action. I think the only other involved agency would be, again, the county environmental facilities and services. Don't know if the planning board wants to coordinate. I mean, I think it probably makes sense. For agency, it's not like anything would be up if you.
I wouldn't mind coordinating, because I think there's some interested agencies we'd want to include. It could be done as part of regular coordination, but I think I want to hear the fire department, emergency services. But we can get to that, I think. Were those all your comments, Ashley, or did you have more?
One other issue which was raised in the narrative letter, and that was about private restrictive covenants that might be affecting the property. So it's my understanding, I believe there is an issue with a potential deed restriction saying that the use of the property can't be anything other than a single-family home. But as the letter does indicate, if it's something, this board can enforce private restrictive covenants that are, if the use is permitted by your zoning code, you can't then enforce that private agreement. So that's correct. That's not something for this board to consider.
That's between whoever else is subject to the restrictive covenant to, I guess, address. Okay. All right. Why don't we start with board members? Anybody want to start?
Sure, I will. You mentioned that the existing septic system will be abandoned and that you're proposing sanitary sewer connection. In the most recent submission of the EAF in section 11, it still states, will the proposed action connect to the existing wastewater utilities? No. And if no, the method for wastewater treatment, existing subsurface septic system on site. So I think that needs to be updated. When I was reviewing the plans, I was having difficulty on the site plan locating the well, and I was wondering if you could perhaps point me in the right direction on that. Oh, blown up on the big screen there. I now see it. Okay, so it's just to the left of the steps by the front porch. Okay, right by the house. Thank you. All right, let's see. Ashley talked about that. I'm curious about so there's the two ramps, one going in the basement, one going in the first floor, and then there's steps both at the rear of the building, and then looks like steps up to the second floor. And I was wondering what all those would be constructed out of. Do we know at this point?
So the front, there is a front porch that was made out from wood, where you see the ramp. So the ramp from next to the front porch.
Yep.
That will be from wood, and that's actually ADA access to the first floor level. So that's.
Want me to bring up the floor plans?
Basically, the access to the covered porch.
So is that there's the AD ramp around the back that no, if I understand, goes to the basement.
Before the back, we have the covered porch in the front.
Yep.
So that covered porch, we have a ramp on the right side of the covered porch. You can
Right.
see there's a ramp going up. So that's basically to the first floor level.
Okay.
And that will be made out from wood because the covered porch, I remember, is also from wood.
Okay.
Then we have the ramp in the back, the ADA ramp. That's basically it's a cut So it will be from concrete with 2 retaining walls going
Okay.
down to the basement. The staircase that you can see at the corner of the building next to the garage, that was proposed for exit. According to the code, we need to have a second means of egress from the second floor.
Okay.
So that's the reason you can see the staircase. But it's not used for a main entrance or something, but that's what it is.
And the stairs out the back by the stone chimney,
That's an existing.
those exist?
That's an existing staircase,
Okay.
I believe, and I think it's made out for, like, if they want to go out from inside to the backyard for the kids, so they will keep it.
Right, and then I had a couple of things specifically from the floor plan. In what is labeled Classroom 1, I was wondering if the garage doors were going to remain in that space, or if that was going to be closed off and just turned into walls and windows?
Probably the garage doors will be changed out. It's the floor plan might change slightly. It's the concept, we're still working on it, but it will stay in the same concept. There came up, might be some changes inside, but if we are doing if there will be a classroom here, originally it's supposed to be storage, but we decided to put a classroom here, then they will take out the garage doors, definitely.
Oh, okay, so depending on what the
Yeah.
final
Yeah, but
determination
it's
is
like,
on that.
we're still early in the process, but hopefully with the next meeting we'll have something more final, but I think it's basically reflecting very close to a final plan.
So Ashley, do we have architectural review over this?
I was actually just looking that up because it's interesting, because it's obviously existing single-family home, but it's not a single-family dwelling use.
Right.
So you have architectural review for any site plan or special use permit other than for a single-family detached dwelling or uses accessory there too. So this use isn't a single-family dwelling, so then that would trigger architectural review for at least these new elements. So it's the stairs.
Stairs,
Yeah,
the ramps, the windows.
Yeah.
We'll definitely want to see how this is going to be reused and redesigned, because we don't want to have the situation where there's like a patch job or windows being covered up with plywood.
Sure.
So we definitely want to see something as far as the elevations around the building and how this is going to be improved with details.
I understand from where the board is coming.
All right, sorry.
No, it's okay. There was, in the narrative, or at least the original narrative, it called for an on-site caretaker to live in the school, but there doesn't appear to be any space dedicated to living area for that employee. Now, I don't know, now that we're talking about, instead of this being a place of worship, this being merely a school, if there's still that plan to have an on-site caretaker.
No.
Where you get, I didn't.
So
That
when this was submitted as a place of worship, there was I think the rabbi who was going to live there,
No, there's nothing.
so there was going to be an apartment
No,
and whatnot.
It's almost impossible to get like a mixed use in this kind of buildings. Everything can happen, but you need to, if you have a residence in a commercial building, you need to do fire separation, separate entrance, exits. So it just doesn't make any sense for this building. So this is going to be just a.
No family living there?
No family living.
No one, okay.
Jeff, was that in the prior memo or narrative?
Yeah, so
or?
I don't, I don't have a date on this, but we do have a narrative. This was titled Application for Site Plan and Special Use Permit Approval Pursuant to Zoning Law for Place of Worship. And in the first paragraph, there's a statement, the caretaker living on site shall park his personal vehicle on site. And I believe in conversation about when we were talking about it as a place of worship, because of that requirement, we were talking about there being someone living on site. I guess
And that was
I guess
part
my
of an
ultimate question
original
is,
submission.
are we abandoning this narrative? Is this our new narrative? Are we going to get an updated narrative?
I think I would ask you to
This
accept.
is not a revised narrative. This is basically the narrative. The new
Which
one that was-
supersedes the
Right.
other.
supersedes the
Yeah,
other.
so
I just wanted to clarify that.
Yes.
So to that point, we had an application that was in front of us where all the paperwork was calling this a place of worship and everything that we had received. So I guess related to what you're saying is, is there any kind of formal withdrawal of anything that had been submitted previously, or is it just okay? Should we have a letter on the record that says all that is superseded by the new submission?
I think you could have just a letter explaining that, but it's essentially,
That was the intent of this letter, to basically say what you're, I think.
Supersede?
Yeah, I mean, I think I was trying to read that in our first paragraph, and maybe I should. Sorry. Yes, our intention is that the narrative provided in our letter of May 26 would be superseding and would be the controlling narrative. To be clear, this is a religious school, it is not a house of worship.
Okay.
There is not going to be a caretaker on house, that needs to be a condition of the ultimate, hopefully, approval. I would hope you would be guided by our letter, and if you have any questions directed at that, we're prepared to flesh it out.
So it's really as if we're starting the application fresh tonight. Everything that's been submitted up to this point, we're virtually abandoning.
Or said another way, is there anything that's being retained from the prior files that had been submitted? Do you know?
I don't know, I mean, I'd have to go through the files, I don't want to abandon, what's that?
No, we're just updating. Like the site plan, for instance, it's being updated. It's the original plan, but it's being, improved upon based upon the present application as it stands.
So the most recent site plan would be the
Right.
controlling one. I mean, I guess it's like any other iteration of a project through a review process.
Yeah, it was, but the only reason we want to make it clear is because when this was first submitted to us, we were going back and forth specifically asking, what is this? Because it was kind of a school, kind of a place of worship, and we weren't sure, and there was an insistence on the fact that it was a place of worship. So that's why we just want to be absolutely clear that this supersedes, and that's, you're saying that is
I will state
the
on the
intent.
record, this is not a house of worship. This
Okay.
is a religious school.
And only because then there's a separate set of special use requirements. That's why we're asking.
Well, that's what our letter,
Yeah.
again, that's in our May 26 letter, that's what we walked through, is the special use requirements particular to schools.
Okay, thank you.
Everything else that I had already has been covered. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Manson.
Is anyone else? Jason,
Couple of questions.
Anthony? Okay.
Wondering about the sanitary sewer, proposed sanitary sewer. That's done? Outs along that?
I suggested that cleanouts be placed every 75 feet or so.
Sorry, if we could put one at the corner at the angle point?
Yeah, actually, that's my comment, at all bends and 75 feet.
And just wondering if they meet 10 state standards for slope, or has the profile been examined?
Profile hasn't been prepared, so.
And I see you're widening the pavement for the driveway, and you have a proposed bus turnaround that looks like it goes off the pavement to make the turnaround? That's in your comments? Okay. And was a revised, or is a SWIP going to required? And, will there be stormwater quality measures installed to accommodate the additional impervious area?
So one of my comments was there's no proposed disturbance on the EAF. I assume this disturbance is less than an acre, but
Yes. We'll put all that additional information in the revised EAF, the area disturbance, et cetera.
okay. Do you anticipate it to be more than an
I
acre?
don't anticipate it being more than
Yeah, so-
anywhere near a half acre, quite honestly.
Right. So I wouldn't anticipate that water quality or quantity control would be needed, so.
The other thing, with regards to the building floor plan, is there any way to evaluate if the proposed space is adequate for the population served in terms of, where the desks are going to be placed, how many students, is there going to be adequate traffic or, pedestrian or movement within the building, if that's, what you're proposing is reasonable?
I think that's subject, I don't know, do you want to speak to that?
Yeah, that's everything up to the building code. There's a lot of building code requirements for the width of hallways, entries, doors, the classrooms, and you can see that we have an architect on board, John Till. He will I don't know how far the board wants to go into the details with the plan that will be submitted to the building department. Everything will be addressed. And again, I understand that the board still wants to address beforehand any impacts that may happen to the outside of the building. And as we did the evaluation that we need the 2 ramps and we need the egress, and I believe that this will be the only outside additions that we need to the building, and might be some windows that will need to be changed, and we'll provide that as part of the architectural review. But everything inside of the building, there's a New York State code that is basically restricting the amount of children, how much you can have in the building. So based on the analysis, we have, there is a provided, you can see there is a, I'm not sure if the table is on the plan, but we did an analysis, and the maximum amount of children that can be in the building according, as per New York State, will be 100 to 15 children and 10 teachers. So it's basically 125 people plus the 3 caretakers, whatever we have. So
Joel, that analysis would be useful. They're not on the floor plans, or
Okay.
I don't think they're on the site plan, but it might be more appropriate to have them on the floor plans.
we can,
But it all ties into just capacity.
correct.
Because ultimately, the special use permit, will have conditions attached to it, and one of them may be, you're going to be allowed X number of occupants given, for instance, I have no idea, because it is a building code question, fire safety. If you have a well, do you need to have sprinklers, based on the type of construction of the building? So all of that kind of plays into ultimately, what might get incorporated into a special use permit if one is issued. So I think the details are important, also just by nature of the occupancy, and not to say that a single family or other, types of buildings aren't important, but these are children, and a school. So I think that's all just important to the analysis.
Okay. So
Thank
we'll
you.
have-
Also wondering, within the narrative, does it discuss the hours of operation, and would there be night school, or should we be considering lighting for this site, and also a proposed emergency backup generator for the site?
On page 2, we go through the hours of operation. They're all daytime hours, 8 a.m.
Into the mic, please.
Sorry, okay. On page 2 of our May 26 letter, we outline the hours of operation. It's essentially Monday through Thursday, 8 a.m. to 5 p.m., Friday, 8 a.m. to 1 p.m., and it's closed to Saturday and Sunday. So no night school is anticipated. Again, this is a school for young girls.
And is that seasonal, or 365 days? Is that a full year?
I believe it's throughout the year.
So there'll be classes throughout the summer?
It would be, I guess,
It's, basically-
modified educational
It's
program.
usually different programs, but it's, yes, it will also be during the summer.
I say it all night. Trust me.
If you get a recording, you just press the button.
One of those staples things.
Thank you, that's all I have.
Thank you very much.
John, Pat?
I have a
Jason?
question. Trying to recall if we discussed the issue of the frontage the last time this was before the board.
I don't believe that was raised before. They were, I think, just seeking a waiver from the frontage requirement. They didn't present that this was going to satisfy frontage. This is a
Right.
new position.
So I remember we had the conversation about the Kingsville Synagogue several months ago, where is actually the front of the property. So, I just really wanted to hear your opinion, because in the letter, Mr. Richmond is saying that because a part of the parcel is on Cromwell Hill Road, it fulfills the requirement for frontage. So does that mean they don't need a waiver, or?
That's something that I think we should ask Ben to weigh in on, but so the town code doesn't define frontage, but typically the standard, dictionary definition, which is what you would defer to usually in this case, it's defined as the part of the property that is between the front of the building and a street. So that would be Allison Drive versus the Cromwell Hill portion, because that's not the front
Is it the front, though? I was looking at, I was trying to
I thought
get a
of it just-
perspective, because I see
Actually-
a big porch facing Cromwell Hill. Right?
I don't want us to get, I appreciate the interest in this issue. I mean, I think it is, again, I appreciate the interest in this issue, Mr. Allegro. I think we understand, again, we do have a position, but I think we understand that it may need a waiver depending on what the conversation with the building inspector is. We're not looking to get into a technical argument of what frontage is or is not. We think, more importantly, for the purposes of the waiver, using Allison Drive as the main point of ingress and egress for this property doesn't pose any public health, safety, and welfare impacts.
I think related to that, would this qualify as a flag lot? Does it meet lot width requirements, all of those, just because of just the irregularity of, again, what is the frontage and how is lot width measured, and is this actually a flag lot because we don't allow them, but it's pre-existing? So
you don't prohibit flag lots, but you don't allow rear dwellings, which is a dwelling behind another dwelling that fronts the street, so
Okay.
that wouldn't
it wouldn't apply here.
wouldn't apply. This is obviously an existing lot, as you had noted, and I believe their bulk table calculated the lot width. I don't know whether Sean's had a chance to confirm that or not, but I think the way is it an average between the
Average between the front and the rear.
Okay.
Right.
Okay. Thank you. John, did you have any more? Good. Jason?
So Sean actually touched on my comment, it was about the bus turnaround. Are you guys proposing to extend the pavement off or more from what's already there, or are you going to go and dig up the grass with the bus? Yes.
You probably need two of those up there.
Well,
Yeah.
there's not usually three people.
Yeah.
I can leave.
No.
As far as the turnaround for the buses, it's just in front of where the present garage is that'll be extended in order to make the movements that are shown on the site plan.
Okay, so just to make sure I'm following, there's going to be like, I guess, a little sub-driveway?
It's really a backup area, an area for it to pull up.
Is there any way to prevent backing up? I mean, if you're in a drop-off zone?
It seems like a
Well,
dangerous for
Yeah.
students, teachers, parents, and a big giant bus.
Well, what's anticipated is the first bus what's shown there is the movement of the bus, but the bus will pull up, stop in the pavement in front of the garage. It's not going to back all the way in. When it's done unloading, it will then back up and pull out, and the next bus can come in. You're not going to have two buses unloading at the same time.
I think a question would be, would buses be queuing on the road to wait?
No, what's shown, it's shown shadowed there, if you could just slide that down a little bit. There's 4 spots in front of the reserve space that you see where the buses are queuing in the existing drive area.
So is there an ability for you to have a complete cul-de-sac, for lack of a better term, so that the bus isn't turning around? Or I should say backing up?
Yeah, I think this arrangement's going to be problematic.
Well, there's always an ability, but obviously then you're going to wind up a lot more site disturbance, clearing, and et cetera.
From a safety aspect.
I was just about to say, I think I would, and I don't want to speak for the rest of the board members, but I would prefer a little bit more, site disturbance if, that means a kid's not going to get hit by a bus.
I think there's more to that, but why don't you continue, Jason?
No, that was kind of the root of my question. I just don't buy this bus movement area. I just don't think it's a safe operation.
Did you have anything you want to raise at this point? No. Okay. All right.
Just
Staring at the map.
All right. I know Jeff had it. Did you raise your other question?
No.
Okay.
But actually, so I have just a comment to make, but I have a question. Will there be any, out in the clearing areas around the building, will there be any sort of playground facilities? Is that required for a school like this? Just kind of more a point of curiosity.
There is required, I believe there is a flat area behind the, oh, sorry.
I was just wondering if that was going to be part of the plan, ultimately, was to have some outside playground equipment,
I
maybe.
will check with them. My understanding was there is a flat area. You can see it like
Yeah.
to the back of the building. There is a flat area, and they will use that area as play area, and they don't need no more than that.
It just occurred to me when we were looking at the aerial, that you have those cleared areas around the building, and I was wondering if any of that was going to be used that way. In any of the application submission I've seen so far, I went back through my whole file, I didn't find an entity disclosure form. And since we were talking earlier about clarifying really who the application is with, it'd be the perfect time to bring that up. That's something that's required in every application. So I'm assuming it's going to, based on our conversation, list Congregation Habanas as the entity. Then Part B gets into who the ownership of that is. I don't know whether Mr. Kestenbaum is merely the owner of this property, or he's involved as a principal of the congregation, so that'll just illustrate all that out for us. Because that'll come up later on, and then it'll be a last-minute thing.
I was wondering, could there be further subdivision or additional buildings added to this site?
I don't think that lot can be subdivided according to the bulk. I don't think the property can be subdivided according to the bulk table, but there is a possibility that they will do future buildings, additional building for the future. It's based on their use now. They believe that this will be sufficient for the next couple of years, but there's no plans, but could happen.
So, some questions. Has there been submitted whatever the existing floor plan is for the building? Or can we get that from the building department? Maybe Sean, you can organize that.
I have the plans from the existing building.
Can you send that to us digitally?
Sure.
Okay.
No problem.
Yeah, because I want to compare some of the spaces, what exists versus what's proposed, and particularly the food prep area. Garbage and garbage pickup. You're going to go from a single-family home to 125, child occupancy plus additional teachers, et cetera. I think we need to figure out what the method is of getting garbage out and how it'll be stored. 125 occupancy plus, because again, I think there'll be teachers and others, and I would like to get a sense of building code requirements, especially fire related to the construction of the building.
Just to touch on, I think they said 125 people max.
Max, okay.
115 children, 10
115, okay.
10 teachers, yep.
Thank you. Well adequacy, so the well was built for a home, and now we're talking about, again, up to 125 people. So I think we need to find out whether the well can handle that or whether additional have to be drilled. In terms of, and related to what Jeff had said, if you're going to have an outdoor area, I would question the need for some fencing for the children, because you do have a sloping condition on that site, if I recall correctly, and also because you're surrounded by neighbors, you want to allow them to continue to have some privacy. So I think some fencing will need to be considered. On the map, if you could show the actual slope areas that are part of the environmental constraints calculation, just to confirm. Sewer connection with Orange County DPW. Is there a reason why a septic system expanded cannot be provided, or is it because of the occupancy? It's just you have to connect. Or could you develop a septic system that could handle the load? I'm just curious.
I mean, we haven't done any testing to find out if the existing system could be expanded. Yes,
Okay.
potentially it could, but at the time, the cost involved in revamping the existing system, they felt it was better to have the connection into the municipal sewer. It's just neater and cleaner.
And they are in the sewer district.
Okay.
So, it only, in my opinion, makes sense to connect.
But I do know with that, and one of the reasons why we want to have the Orange County DPW comments early in is the county did comment on another application that was within the district about capacity issues in the town of Monroe. So I don't know how the county's handling those projects that are in district,
Right.
but that's definitely something, the
That has
capacity
to-
issues that need to be addressed.
Right. We talked about tree removal. There is a tree limit line on there. We talked about the septic system. That one of my biggest concerns is the circulation, because you are going to have, potentially vans coming with the food. You have up to 4 buses arriving, and having them do sort of, K-turns on the site for this occupancy, given the fact that there might be parking there as well. I know you want to kind of waive it, but if parking's needed, now the queue area is right in front of the parking area. And we have to consider the two-way traffic, not just the buses, but all of them. And so I think that whole circulation system there really has to be looked at and considered, because I think that's a lot of vehicle movement to happen in a confined, constrained area. So, in my opinion, I think something needs to be done. I asked about the sanitary system. You did mention that this is going to be a year-round use, so this isn't a seasonal, they go home for the summer and come back kind of a use. We talked about the queuing the buses. We touched upon the playground. And as I said, also security around the playground. We touched upon architectural review and knowing exactly, how the facade is going to be developed. There'll be landscaping plan needed, or to the extent that whatever is retained can serve to screen views of this facility. That'll be important. Those are my sort of initial reactions at this point in time. I think we need a little bit more information, but I guess my top 2 are the building itself, building code. For instance, if you need to have some kind of fire system there with sprinklers, can the well handle it? So all of that, and then the circulation in particular. So I guess at this point in time, do we need more information, or if we want to do circulation just for lead agency, can we do that? There's no reason why we can't start to circulate, right?
I think you could do that if you wanted to discuss what interested agencies. I mean, I believe the only involved is Orange County Environmental Facilities and Services for the sewer, and then interested, you had mentioned
I think that we want just the
DEC.
Fire.
DOH.
Yeah, Department of Health, Fire District,
Orange County DPW.
Orange County DPW. Is Cromwell Hill town or county?
Town.
Town, okay. Sorry.
I just wonder, for the Orange County facilities, I think it may be actually Orange County Sewer District number 1, maybe.
Environmental Facilities and Services actually issues the permit for
Okay.
Orange County Sewer District 1.
Right. Which is a subsidiary of
Right.
the Department of Public Works.
Okay.
And then we just normally send off to New York State DEC because of the bats. And did we have a SHPO? Okay, and right now we're under 1 acre, so no SWIP?
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah, the EAF needs to be, and I guess that's another
needs to be
question, is do you
updated.
want to wait until the EAF is updated those 3 questions that needed to be addressed before circulating. You could still authorize the circulation, and whenever you submit the new EAF, I'll do that.
Yeah, I was going to say that we conditioned it upon just a final review and update to the EAF as necessary, if there's anything that's inconsistent there.
It was questions 2, 3, and 11.
And yeah, there was no SHPO hit on either question, so.
Okay, so that didn't get triggered, and I know you're
Right.
not really doing a lot of disturbance, so. But once you start to get into the SWIPs, then there's that memorandum.
Right.
Right, so then you trigger SHPO.
SHPO anyway, right.
Right, so. So we're talking in general about the State Historic Preservation Office. Once you get into having to prepare a stormwater pollution prevention plan, there's certain agreements in place and requirements that you have to coordinate with them as part of that SWIP
Right.
process, yeah. Just to, because we're throwing around acronyms here. All right, so why don't we, and if we think of any other couple of agencies, you know, we'll address that. We'll see a draft of the notice of intent before it goes out.
Yes, I'll coordinate with you and Sean if anything pops up that you think of.
So,
I guess what you just mentioned about the SWIP and potentially needing to coordinate with SHPO. I mean, I know you talked about new circulation that you wanted to see. I don't know whether you think that would be likely to increase the disturbance out over that threshold, and that they should potentially be noticed now, even if they might not actually be involved, but just so you don't have to redo it. I don't know what you're at now, so I don't know what additional might be
We'll
required.
take a look at the circulation, see how we can solve the question, and then we'll calculate the disturbance from there. If
where,
it's an issue.
where are we right now with the limits of disturbance? How much area for the sewer line coming up?
We did not calculate it, but I can't believe it's maybe a half acre, if that.
A half acre?
If
So do you
that.
think with the turnaround, that might be another half acre, or no?
No,
Nothing like that?
it's quite a bit of area, no.
Okay. Well-
Excuse me?
I think we should be okay. I mean, and we're going to send to DEC. If we have to just coordinate with SHPO, we could do that, if it turns out that it's over an acre.
That's the easy one. Submit to the Chris, so.
It's right, it's all in the system, so, into their, right, their computerized system. So with that then, would someone please make a motion with regard to seeker?
A motion.
Okay, so the motion is, we're going to type the action unlisted, and that we're going to do coordinated review, and we're going to circulate to the agency.
Declare your intent to be lead agency.
Declare.
And to circulate the notice of intent upon receipt of a revised EAF, Part 1.
So that'll be your motion?
Thank guys. Yes, that'd be my motion. Just thought you picked up on a good point, and I thought maybe they can show it on the plan next time, was where the garbage container would be.
Okay. And, okay, so may I have a second to that motion?
I'll second that motion.
Noreen?
Bonnie Franson,
Aye.
Jason Strzynski,
Aye.
Jeff Manson,
Aye.
Anthony Vaccaro,
Aye.
Lisa McQuaid is absent, John Allegro,
Aye.
and Pat Shea.
Aye.
All right, thank you. So with that, the motion carries. Anything else you all want to bring up or discuss? Oops. Okay, so we're starting the process, and you'll be revising and getting us more information. We'll be coordinating with the building department on some of our questions, and we'll go from there.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Good seeing you again.
Thank you. Joel, you're sticking around?
Larry, if you could also look into, when you're revising that EAF, you may need a Orange County Department of Health, they might be involved if you need some kind of public water supply permit because it's going to be over a certain amount of occupants. So if you could just check on that.
I think a school is.
Yeah, does it become a
school is
public water
exempt
supply?
from the
Is it?
Yes,
I'm not sure it is it?
yes. Over a school should be, a religious school should be exempt. I remember place of worship and schools.
But I've started a correspondence with Department of Health regarding this application. I'm just
clarify
gonna,
that,
yeah,
so,
okay.
Night,
Night.
thank you. the next item on the agenda we're going back to is Joel Stossel. And this is a returning project, which had already received approval, and the applicant's back in front of the board for potential modifications. So where are we?
Before I start, I want to hand out to the board something that I actually didn't want to submit officially, and I will explain why, and explain to the board what the updates are and where we're going from here.
Oh, but if you're submitting, this is now going to be officially submitted?
I understand. It's
Okay.
not like
So this is a new submission? Okay.
Thank you.
You? So I did notice a sign now attached to the railing, which I don't know was there before.
which existing
On the
ramp.
On the ramp. There's now a sign there. Is that the noise? Yes, it's like a whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. It's like the vent system?
Yes, I've never heard.
Okay.
Yeah, it's the return.
Now we have no air.
Yeah.
You, George?
Messing with us.
So, my name is Joel Mann, Brahman Associates. I'm here on behalf of the applicant. So, I don't know how much details to go into the history, but going back, I got involved in this application just in the middle when they was before the board for, actually it was two requests. One was to build a ramp for to make this building ADA compliant. The second thing, at the same time, there was an issue that the applicant altered the building, I believe without a building permit. So the applicant, like a history, is not aware on, and is not used to work with the boards and understand the concept. So he understand the proposal was, okay, we need to fix this building. So he went to designer. I wasn't involved actually. I just gave comments to his designer, but I didn't. Usually when it's an application that I'm starting, the designer is being hired by my office. They know exactly what I'm looking from them, and there's details. I'm explaining usually for the client, everything that is on the picture will need to be built. So it's not like with just a nice picture. You need to price it and make a decision on your budget, because that's what's going to be on the building. So this didn't happen on this application. And it's not an answer, and actually I understand they shouldn't be exempt for that, but that's the fact of the history. Now, one of the things that was proposed with that application was a lot of physical alterations to the structure, to the facade of the building up parapets, like in front of the building and at the main entrance. And yes, there was proposed a ramp. It was also, his understanding was that the ramp is basically part of the design. Fine, he will need to follow up the colors, and that will be okay. I had a lot of meetings back and forth. We are now on the same page that he will need to comply with whatever that this board will approve, and whatever if the board will not approve any changes, maybe we'll need to go back to the original picture. But again, the original picture and the way it was proposed to the board, I remember the board wasn't so happy with the red color, because in the character of the neighborhood, it's not. Now, the proposed picture that I'm presenting to you tonight is not a final, it's a concept, and I don't think, the reason I didn't want to submit it officially before, because I didn't want to get any comments on it, because I believe it's still, I don't want to waste the board's time. It's not, like I said, it's not my designer, and I think a lot of things are a little bit more faked out, and I want to get it more right and correct to the board. So, but what I want to discuss with the board the concepts, that the board is ready to work with the applicant and to see which areas that we can mitigate and work out, and to see if we can keep the existing structure of the facade, maybe change some colors out that will actually make it better, in my opinion, to fit in the character of the neighborhood. If there is some type of preliminary agreement, what I will do is I will hire my designer who is doing my renderings. We'll do a real picture based on what's going to be, based on the discussion. I understand there will be comments at the next meeting. Once that will be submitted, we'll address the comments, and hopefully with that we will get to something final that's reasonable, and there will be cost effective, that the owner will know exactly what he's going into it, and he will comply, and hopefully everyone will be happy. So with that, the picture is basically now, this is, if you will compare this picture with the originally approved, you will see a lot of areas that are not going into the colors first. First, let's go into the physical. There was proposed, if you want to open up the originally,
the 2020?
yes.
Okay.
Yes, that's A1620. So we can start with this picture. So first, you can see that line out. So this was the portion that is in the cloud was actually proposed to be built up. You can see in the existing the picture that you have in front of you, the picture that I've just presented to you. You can see there is not that.
I just want to also bring up the
Yep.
photos as we're
Okay,
going
I
through this
understand.
of what exists.
Yeah, so that's all white. The proposal is to change the white out. We understand that the board doesn't like the white, and the white doesn't make any sense, but the proposal is not to build up the parapet that's the way it is proposed on the approved one.
So the proposal is to keep the existing roof line,
Correct.
okay?
And the same thing if you go to the next picture, that's also everything that's basically in the cloud. That's how we want to keep it. If you compare that with the proposed picture, with the presented picture, you can see the difference. So basically there was a proposal to build up with some wooden finish and a new roof out. In fact, that was resulting, if you can see on the picture that was presented to you, there is an existing 3-foot overhang coming out from the building above the door. So there is already a door. Cutting this off, it just doesn't make any sense. It's basically altering the structure of the roof. And this was, like I said, again, this was part of the original approved design.
Okay, so in other words, you're keeping this structure,
Correct.
and then this behind it stays.
Yep.
Okay.
And the same thing with there is a proposal for a double door. We're keeping the single door, not to make this area so visible. It's not a grand entry. It's basically, it's an entry for ADA, but it's not the main entry. So we don't want to build it up. It doesn't make any sense to make another area of the building looking as a grand entry. It will just confuse the customers there. And the same thing is with there was a planter box that was supposed to be proposed there. So that's basically that picture. If we go moving on to the next one, is again, we'll keep the sign.
Oh,
The sign-
actually, going back, the 501 is coming out.
Probably, maybe it will be in that I didn't went into that kind of details, so maybe we'll still put a number on the building, but the planter box that's proposed there, that will be removed.
All right. And the fence rail coming into the main, is that coming out?
Yes.
Okay.
So here we are at this angle, so you have the same thing also presented. So also the same thing. So now we're coming back to the ramp. The ramp wasn't, like I said, it wasn't specified, but the board still has a valid point that if you look at the picture, you need to make it to look as the same as the picture. Now, with the wooden ramp, the ramp by itself can still look at the picture with some finishings. The railing can't. On my map, I didn't change out the railing, I just used the railing as it was on the approved plan. But there is some options that we can do with the existing ramp that's already up. First, we can cover under the ramp with some boards, nice finished boards, or do some siding or some other metal finishes. So basically you will not see the columns. Now you can see like everything under the ramp. So that can be covered and have the same look as the approved one, or we can add some plantings that can cover that area. And the same thing is with the ramp by itself. We can propose some nice finishes that can be long-term. On the railing will be painted railing, and the ramp by itself we can propose some finishes. It's not done yet now on my proposal, but that's something that I want to propose to the board.
So are you saying, as far as this ramp that we're looking at, you're going to switch out the wood with this railing, or not?
No, I'm not.
Because what you're showing us here, it has...
No, that's what I'm saying. The railing wasn't switched out here, but I want to keep the railing the way it was built now, and just basically make it a nice finish that will blend into the building, to the satisfaction of the board. Again, if we'll have a nice picture and that will be something that the board will tell me, listen, this railing needs to be metal, we'll work that out. We'll be able to, we're here to work with the board and to get something that everyone should be satisfied.
All right, so we'll continue to go through, and then you could talk about your preferences or the applicant's preferences, and then
Yes.
we can react to it.
So yeah, again, you can see that the main colors of the building has been changed out. I've recommended him to, now since we don't have the built-up parapet, and even before, it doesn't make any sense to use this kind of red. We want to go more to the more dark colors that will fit in more to the next. You can see I don't remember the name of the medical development that's on the right side of it. Is also more in the brown area, so it will be something more, we'll keep it in that character. With some white strips that we have, fine, but we'll want to try to keep it in that character, and that will hopefully be something that will not stand out and the board will be satisfied.
The lettering that's proposed looks much bigger than what's shown here.
I think it is the same.
It may be the angles.
And again, I think the angles and the proportion of the pictures is not correct, and that's where I'm telling you that my plan is to start from scratch. We'll have
Okay.
Well, basically, we'll have someone take actual photos and dress up the actual photos so that will make it more real.
Like a photo simulation.
Yes.
Okay.
So there is a size requirement on the signage, so if you
Right.
just provide,
I will
the
still
dimensions
keep
of
the same calculation as we did at the approval.
Okay.
Basically, I implemented all the wording in CAD, and I did a square footage calculation at that point, and that's the way it was presented and approved. So.
Okay.
And then there is the lighting. Again, he has already existing lighting in the building. You can go back to the existing pictures, and that's the way it is now.
The soffit lighting?
There is
think you
so
had
the soffit
soffit
lighting
lighting.
is still proposed, but there is other shielded lighting that's actually existing on the building, and it's on the picture that I presented to you tonight. So
to be clear, the existing lighting is what he installed after the approval.
I know,
Okay.
I know.
Because we're talking about existing lighting, but that existing lighting wasn't there. He installed it.
If that will be something that is not
Okay.
in compliance or something that we need to change out, we'll do that too.
So, but at this point, you're going to do soffit lighting or not going to do soffit lighting?
We're in the front.
On the side, right in here, is there soffit lighting already?
It's still, no, I'm not sure on that. I will check on that. It's definitely something that I will propose. I will have it on my proposed picture. Now, again, if the board has a preference that it should be, I think it's not a big deal, and we can implement that.
Yeah, only because it's on the latest version, although I know it's
Okay.
a work in progress, and it's on this one, so just so that we're clear, what he wants to do. Obviously, what we proposed had soffit lighting in it.
Yes.
I don't know that he needs it, but then now he's going to have to detail every lighting fixture.
Everything will be on the plan the way it's going to be.
Okay.
So,
So you talked about the planter, no tile, no door bump out,
correct.
no natural wood look tile.
Right.
And then just various else. Okay. So, Joel, because this is a work in progress, what were you hoping to achieve this evening? Just get a sense of the board on some of these
To
items?
get a sense of the board is, again, the board will tell me, listen, this is the way it's approved. I'm not going to waste any time. I'm walking out from this board meeting. I tried my best, and I'm not here to get into a long-term discussion, or, again, if the board understands the history and is willing to help me work with the applicant and work something out, I'm here. I want to get a feeling from the board what is important for the board to keep, and we'll try to work it out and satisfy the board.
Any board members, do you want to give your reactions at this point?
Ani, would you mind walking us through the photos of what's out there?
And this was before some of these changes were made, so, where'd it go? That's the side of the building, looking at it toward 17. Let me see if I can zoom in on
It's actually
these.
the rear, it's
Yeah.
more like the rear of the building, side or rear, yeah, from the road.
Well, I think of the rear as the wall that has
Okay.
all the
Right.
plywood on it.
That's basically the opposite side of the road.
Right,
Main-
right. Agreed. So that was that one. That's a closer image of the railing that was going down some concrete type of, I guess, a stairwell. It was
That's
going
the-
down.
That's the ramp, that's the ramp to the,
To the basement, yeah.
Right.
that railing is still there.
Yeah.
Yeah, you don't see it
You
much
don't see it
because
because of the big.
because of the new ramp, but
We just saw. This is, so essentially the sidewalk, or sorry, the ramp has been put in here, right? And then comes up, and now there's a door up here.
Correct, yes.
So you could see this is all white. This is just concrete. Here's the curbing. I don't know, next time you come, it'd be really, Joel, it'd be really useful to have what's there now.
Updated, I think the board had some updated pictures.
I
but
think some pictures
we
were
have some
submitted
photos?
before the
Yeah.
last meeting.
Okay.
The last meeting, we provided
I'll-
some.
I'll try and open those up.
I was actually stopping by just today, but didn't see anything significant that I should take new pictures from that last meeting, but
So this is the one side. They have this bump out. I don't recall this being there before. Was that there before?
yes, yes.
Even before the approvals? Okay,
yes,
couldn't remember.
it wasn't implemented in the picture. Again, if this
It
is
is
something that
older.
the board will tell me, even it was before, move it to the side, we can work it out.
Was it like a PDF
It's called Binder 1.
binder one?
think it was sent after Noreen asked for the pictures.
Yeah, I think Yuri went out.
Yuri went out to pictures and, yeah.
Keep sending me more people, I keep calling them the wrong name.
They're helping you out.
Well, this is what's there now.
Yes.
So when you're showing that reddish color in the front of the building that faces 17, is that this that you're showing? Is that the same color?
I will tell you the truth. Like I said, I went into the details. It's similar. I'm not sure if it's exactly the same color. On the picture, it didn't seem to be. You can see, like, if you go on page 2 from the package that's presented now, you can see there is a difference, but I don't have any color names, and I will definitely provide that in the next submit. If the concept is okay, I will provide more
Maybe
detail.
we could actually get samples, if you could just bring in, like, usually they have little swatches or little pieces
Yep.
that we could see the color.
I will provide the details, and I need to check out exactly what color the existing piece is and what is proposed. Maybe we can change out even the existing to the same, but
Is there a window there underneath the 501, or what's right there?
I think there's a
I'm trying to
notch
remember what
into the
that is.
building, a small notch.
Oh, that's just some kind of piping?
Yes.
Is this the way it looks right now, or is it more, I mean, sitting on some piece of,
Yeah, I went over it tonight, too.
okay, so it looks like that. I think this has to be cleaned up, this front facade,
Mm-hmm. I
somehow.
understand.
The mechanicals.
I agree.
So here we have the ramp. And like I said, now, there's a sign right in here.
Maybe, probably put up something temporary because he's not doing anything on the building.
The
but
kid-
I don't know.
That ramp?
What?
That ramp, I mean, I'm concerned about having a wood ramp and splinters and people grabbing their hands along the rail. And aesthetically, it's really displeasing to me. And I would say as a general theme, the neighboring medical offices, the colors that they use are certainly more appealing to me. And I'd be concerned about the signage on the walls. And the medical symbol, I can't remember what it's called, but if there's something,
Caduceus?
that concept that, eyes and the, those are my general comments or thoughts and opinions.
So again, I didn't.
Anybody else want to weigh in? I mean, so, I guess I can start also. I don't like that ramp. I am, maybe somehow the platform could be reused, but the wood railing, I would have to see what it would look like if it was repainted or something, but it is in such stark contrast to what's there. In terms of the signage and the front facade, I agree that symbol is large. I would prefer to see the 501 where that symbol is and the symbol smaller. I think the doctors you trust tagline with the quotes, I don't know that it's necessary. And not to say that you can put that there, but I think that it'd be a lot cleaner to have CareStare with the phone number and Williamsburg Pediatrics with the phone number. Having a tagline with in quotes, I just think is a little too much. It's just not necessary. But that's me,
It was on the original one, I believe so.
Yeah, but I think because of where it was, it didn't stand out as much. That's why I'm saying
see.
these almost look bigger.
Mm-hmm.
In terms of the colors, the one thing that was going on, so I'd have to see what those colors are because it's looking like a ruddy, rusty color. Between the white, it's looking white, rusty colored, and brown to my eyes. And I think in the narrative, it was, I had said black siding, or blackish, almost like, I guess, a charcoal siding,
No, I think.
in the original, in the
The
original.
approved one?
There was reference to
I
black.
think it's yeah?
Yeah, it was like very dark, almost like a charcoal. But I think the one thing to think about is that all of these elements are very vertical with this siding the way that it is. And I don't know whether, it almost looked a little more modern to have the variation between the horizontal and the vertical. Frankly, in the best of all worlds, I don't really like vinyl siding. I think the other original medical buildings had a wood-type siding or a wood-look-type siding.
It's getting very expensive.
Yeah, so even if it's not wood, actual wood, I think there's more enhanced siding, something that has some texture to it. I don't mind, from my perspective, keeping the angles of the building the way they are. Taking away the marble entrance, simplifying it and streamlining it a bit. For me, I don't mind that so much. I don't like these LED lights sticking out of the building. I'm okay with the sconces. I really actually liked the metal railing on the ramp. I thought it looked really sharp. I think that the doors, simple doors, more architectural doors that you have here, I think for me are okay. I don't know if they're different from what's there now, but these look like they're, at least they have the appearance of mirror glass. I wouldn't necessarily mirrored glass, but I think more modern glass doors would be okay. I don't necessarily have an issue with keeping a attractive door up at the top of the ramp, not having a double door. I think that depends in part on ADA standards and what you have to have. I don't know if there's a requirement.
A single 36-inch door is okay.
Yeah.
And do we know the dimensions of the door that's at the top of the ramp now?
Yes.
It is ADA.
It's ADA, yes. One thing that we know that they have an issue, Ben had an issue actually with the lower part of the ramp about the slope, but they need to address that actually.
The reason I'm asking about the coloring here of what you're doing on the front is because I don't know if they're trying to keep what's there now. Here on this image that you presented this evening, you have a red stripe, you have brown siding, and then the white is much more limited.
It's basically like mirrored on the door, like the same spacing they have on the right side of the door, it's proposed on the left side.
With the white.
With the white.
But you're going to increase the amount of brown.
Correct.
My question is, what sort of was the thought behind putting the reddish, whatever that is?
I can't explain that.
Okay. And so that's why I was wondering if that actually is the siding they want to then put on the front
No,
with the rust color.
I think if,
So they're open to it.
yeah, I think if we can basically continue the brown or black, whatever you want to call it, or change it to the rusted siding. I don't know.
And that's going to be the roofing that stays, right? Because it
Yes.
it looks different from
It's-
this.
Exactly. It's not
A little
showing-
darker.
That's one of the things that's not really presented in the picture. It's,
Okay.
Yes, they're not going to change out the roofing.
So I think the materiality of some of the vinyl could be, a little better quality if it's vinyl. I don't like these LEDs protruding out of the building.
Can you show off
What I'm talking about?
the approved one? What type of lighting we had there? Maybe I have it here.
Oh, you want to see the document that was approved?
Yeah,
I believe it was just the sconces that were,
Amount.
Yes. I see. I will need to look into it because my understanding, I will need to go there at night. My understanding is that they need some more lighting the proposal wasn't realistically, it's not, they don't have enough lighting. But I will go on the site, we'll see what's there now and what they need, and we'll try to
Yeah,
do something in between.
right now, it's just very utilitarian,
I understand.
bright LEDs that are sticking out of the building now.
Yep.
And I think that they could do something that gives them more light, LED 2700 Kelvin, not bright, stark white, and something that's more architectural downlighting
I
than
understand.
what they have.
It's
that-
basically, it's just put on the building with no, it's not uniformed on the building, I understand.
No, it was like, oh, we got one here, we need one here.
Yeah,
And part of it's just simply, everything kind of fit together at least. And here, there's just pastiche of what he felt he needed to install, as opposed to implementing a design. And again, just getting back to the railing, I'd rather see metal railing on the ramp. I mean, maybe the wood deck could stay.
let me see.
Maybe see what else you can do, but definitely not a fan of the wood ramp.
I agree with putting a skirt around the bottom so you don't see the understructure.
Yeah. As far as the plantings, you have some limited area there. I don't know how much you can fit. I don't know.
I personally feel that the plantings is another level of compliance issue going forward, and I wouldn't propose that. So
Maybe there's something alternative, but I think you
it's
do need,
basically covering, I will come up with something to cover behind the ramp, and you will not see, it will seem like it's
part of the
whatever,
ramp.
part of the ramp.
Okay. Come up with, so those were my reactions. I don't know.
I mean, first and foremost, and I've been to the property several times. I think for me, what the watchword has to be for this building is it has to look professional. This is a medical building. And right now, it looks like a storage shed.
Because he's tapped in the middle. It's not doing anything for...
Right.
Yeah.
So, actually, a number of these simplifications that you're proposing sit fine with me, but things like, I feel like where here we get into three colors, if this was going to be some sort of darker red, then carry that line through all the way to the end of that wall. So now we have the red on this face, and the brown or black, whatever it winds up being there. By the front entrance door, again, the three colors on that one wall face, it looks patchwork. So, now perhaps you get rid of the red, and I agree with the concept of highlighting that main entrance door. I'm fine with keeping the roof line and not carrying a wood, I don't even know what you call that, frankly, surround around that door all the way up, but I don't think it's a horrible idea to have this kind of thing. It doesn't have to be that exact thing, and then just up under the existing roof line. Something that says, hey, this is where you come into this building.
Right.
As far as the railings going into that entrance, the planter, that sort of thing, those aren't make or break to me, but the way the ramp looks now, and the railings in particular,
I fully agree.
take right away from that. It looks particularly residential, and we need it to look commercial. We need it to look professional. I think you're right. I think that the sign that was originally a month ago kind of tucked away on the ramp to the basement, which is now tacked up on the stairs, is a temporary measure, and it looks it.
I think you just pointed out, Jeff, I do like the overhang because it's shelter,
Right.
and it's metal. But it has to be then coordinated with whatever other materials you're using.
Right. We got to smooth out the color changes.
I think this particular picture too, so a lot of modern buildings, well, especially if they're like wood or wood facade, I know there's one being built up in Poughkeepsie. I like when it has the metal and charcoal, and what's interesting from this image and rendering is it's like the front almost looks brown on the original one, but I think when they said black, I think it was really like a charcoal, which is on the other part of the building perhaps. I think that might work. But, you come up with the colors so we can
Again,
react to
you
it.
can see in the picture, the roof is not reflecting the right color of shingles, so
Yeah.
it's like, that
Understood.
gives a different impression on the building.
Right.
So. And I will tell you the truth, I'm not the best when it comes to colors and design. I have a partner who's working in that. I will get him probably at the next meeting to more present and discuss and try to address that concerns in detail.
Joel, I think you understand what we're looking for here, what we're going for here.
100%.
What my concern is that the client does not. That the way that property is being maintained currently sort of says to me, I don't have a concern for whatever you do here. Again, there's still garbage everywhere on the property. Little things are being done here and there, but nothing really to address the inadequacies in the landscaping. I don't know, listen, I don't know what it would be beneficial for, Mr. Stossel to attend these meetings, as we finish through this process. And here, we're serious about this.
Right.
I think you're doing everything you can to express that to your client. He might need to see that from us.
I will.
It's a suggestion.
We'll get to something that's on the table. I think we'll get him to the meeting so he will listen to exactly to the board's concern.
Right.
But one thing,
There's been a couple of instances here where he's taken action that he shouldn't have taken.
Yep.
Something as a show of good faith that says, I'm willing to work in the right direction would mean a lot to me, frankly.
I understand.
Anybody else?
I agree with all the previously mentioned sentiments about the ramp, and I hadn't thought about it before, but I think I think it was you, Jeff, who said to continue, basically eliminate the white and continue the color, be it that burgundy color or the brown toward the end of the wall.
If I could add just two things, the ramp needs to go. Maybe not even you could keep the planking, but I think the metal railing is essential to, making a step towards appeasing this board. And for me, I'd also like to see grass in front of the ramp. There's currently just rocks, and it looks kind of out of place.
Yeah, the reason it's basically he's stopped now by the building inspector, so he didn't finish up the site. But it's definitely the proposal is to have grass there.
Right, and right now there's a bunch of weeds coming up through there.
Yep.
Unkempt, not, I think, the image that this community would like to see in their commercial and let alone their professional spaces.
Agree.
It looks like, was there gravel there before? What was there before?
No, I think we had a picture. It was grass, that area.
Oh, so you actually had to bring gravel in. So I don't know if this was temporary.
It's usually but basically, I don't know what he meant before, but now he is at a point that he stopped. But usually when you do a deck, if you're not doing something like gravel under the deck, you have some half-leaf weeds growing and then you have mud. So probably his intent was to leave it as is. So you put, right, you're right, you put the gravel, but this is going to be changed out, definitely. It's not even a question.
That goes back to what was originally approved, and what was originally approved was grass.
Correct.
I think whatever is designed, there's realities that you have gutters, drains, other realities.
Correct, that's
and
not implemented.
that aren't, that aren't shown, that aren't implemented, and some of these ideas, they have to consider the realities of you need the roof drains, you need to have things.
That was exactly my concern too, and I was feeling that if I'm not addressing that, I will face the issue. Whatever picture we're going, the drains may make a mess from the look. So, yes.
We have to
will be
coordinate all of it, right?
It will be implemented now in the design.
Anybody else want to add anything? Nope. Pat?
Yeah, I just have one thing. ADA ramp there on the entrance, there's no, overhang for rain. In the end, going in there, I can just see, people gathering there in a storm, getting soaked.
I see. There is no need for, according to the code, but if that's something that you want to see,
Awning.
we can implement like a corner roof, maybe a flat roof, not to be built out.
And I think
More simple.
this, the purpose of this was just showing us some ideas of what could be, and I think that maybe the consensus of the board is it would be okay to simplify some of these elements, but certainly, the facade, the coloring, the lighting, and the rail, and having grass instead of gravel are kind of sticking,
Sure.
with everybody, so see what we could do for the next meeting.
Okay.
All right.
Appreciate for the board for listening to and giving the opportunity to have some changes here. I hope in the next meeting, maybe we'll skip a meeting because I want to make sure that when I'm coming to the meeting, I have something that's realistic, the owner agrees to it, and it's feasible to do, and that will be my next submission.
Okay. I mean, don't take too long, because right now
No.
he's not in compliance, so.
I understand. It will, again, I think it's 2 weeks for submission date, and that's a little bit too tight to get an updated rendering with various changes, so I might miss one meeting and be ready the next one.
Okay.
June 24th is the submission.
So it's less than 10 days, yeah. Okay,
Sounds good, thank you.
thank you. Have a good night, everyone.
You too.
You.
All right, so I think we have to go over the letter. And was that circulated to everybody, the letter? Yep.
I think I sent it on Friday, actually. I think I sent
would've
it
done
directly
it.
to the board, I think. I think I,
You sent
Yeah,
it to
that
the
one you sent
entire
to
board?
The other one, I did,
I think it was late. I think it was after you had already.
after I disappeared.
The one here? No, it's something else. Yeah, that'll probably be the quickest thing. I probably did download it. Let me just.
I sent a copy to John Queenan today, but I haven't heard anything in response from him.
Do you want to do a synopsis of what's here? There's a summary, Ashley?
Sure, so there were a couple of questions. The ZBA was asking about the yield plan that the planning board approved back in March of, I believe it was March of 2020. How you reached that number. One of the things, the main concern was the length of the cul-de-sac, which the subdivision regulations have a 500-foot length maximum. This board, after discussing it with the highway superintendent and considering other developmental constraints with the property, you did decide when reviewing that conventional plan that a majority of the board decided you would go ahead and grant that waiver. So in the letter, I explain the cluster review process and how when you have a cluster subdivision, you review the conventional plan as if it was a subdivision plan that's before you, whether you'd grant a waiver would be something you'd consider on, normal subdivision, non-cluster application as well. So I just tried to convey how you reached that decision, what you considered. And I did look at my notes, and this actually started even before I was representing the board. So the waiver was always discussed from the beginning. It was always known by this board that it would be required for the conventional plan. So it was discussed in quite a few of your meetings, if not every meeting where the applicant was there.
So I had an opportunity to look at a preliminary draft, so I've gone through it, so I'm okay with it. Do board members have anything they want to add or anything they're okay with it as far as what it's conveying? So, yep, okay. Do we need to resolve to send it?
Do a motion to authorize planning board attorney to send the letter to the ZBA that was reviewed tonight.
All right, so there being no changes, I'll make a motion that we authorize our planning board attorney to transmit this letter to the zoning board of appeals. May I have a second?
I'll second.
Noreen?
Bonnie Franson,
Aye.
Jeff Manson,
Aye.
Jason Sarinsky,
Aye.
Pat Shea,
Aye.
John Allegro,
Aye.
Anthony Vaccaro,
Aye.
and Lisa McQuaid is absent.
With that, we'll have that letter sent out. And all right, so I think, is there anything, Sean or Ashley, you wanted to touch upon? Any of the applications, anything to follow up on at this point?
Not at this time.
Okay, all right. So we're going to go through a set of minutes. You don't need to stick around. Have a great evening.
Have a good evening, everyone.
All right, so I guess we'll start with March 11th.
Excuse me, Bonnie.
Sure.
If you don't mind, I'd like to leave. I just have some things going on in my personal life that just need some time.
Sure.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you. I think I had edits to these. I don't know if I sent them to Noreen.
No, the only ones I got were from Ashley
Okay.
to take care of her inaudibles.
Okay, so I'll send you my edits. They were
Okay.
just little typos or this or that. Some, I'm not even going to go through it here because
That's
I already
fine.
wrote them in.
Send them to me and I'll fix those.
All right. Did anyone have, oh, there you go. These are the revised, 411?
I would have sent them March 11th. They would have been, I reprinted on,
Ah, okay, I got it.
okay.
Well, those were my edits.
All right, well,
Just sent
forward
to you
those to
later.
me.
Okay, did anyone have any edits? Have a good night. Let's see here. Yes, so. we're good.
everyone was present
We're good.
that
I want to
meeting,
make
so we're
sure we can vote on it. All right, so subject to, I had some just housekeeping items that I
Okay.
will send Noreen. May I have a motion to approve the March 11th, 2021 minutes? May I have a second?
I'll second.
Noreen?
Pat Shea,
Aye.
John Allegro,
Aye.
Bonnie Franson,
Aye.
Jeff Manson,
Aye.
Jason Sarinsky,
Aye.
and Anthony.
Right. set. We're from 316, same thing, Noreen, I just have minor
Okay.
editorials. Did anyone have any changes to 316? No. So, could someone make a motion to approve these minutes?
Yeah, I'll make a motion to approve the minutes from March 16, 2021.
I will second. Noreen?
Pat Shea. John Allegro.
Aye.
Bonnie Franson.
Aye.
Jeff Manson.
Aye.
Jason Swerinsky.
And I was recused for part of the matter.
Have an, we're good,
Yep,
okay.
Still good.
All right, so now we're up to 4-8.
Out today, I don't know whether you had a chance to go over them.
I really didn't. So we want to hold off? But we'll get May for the next meeting.
Yeah.
And hopefully June, at least one of them.
I will do the best I can.
Okay, so then we're all caught up.
We are working on it to the
All
point
right.
where carpal tunnel's killing me.
And so why don't we just hold off? We'll carry over April to the one meeting, and then we'll do May at the second meeting. And then we'll see where we are. And then by May to June, we're in June, that'll hold over to
Or May.
July.
We get April, May, and
And then
July.
by August, we
We'll
should,
get July.
hopefully everything will be
June,
caught
yeah.
up. Yeah,
That's the goal.
yeah. Well, no, seriously, so our meeting minutes
Mm-hmm.
in, let's say August, we should be approving July.
Right.
Right, so that's where we have to get, just where we're approving the 7
The-
minutes from the
right.
prior. Yep,
And just a reminder, I am not here the first meeting in July.
okay. Do you know if anyone were we gonna get,
Never done it before. I can do the minutes right off the video.
okay. Okay,
I use my notes and take it off the video and listen to the full video anyway.
okay. All right, so then with that, I'll make a motion to adjourn the meeting. May I have a second?
No.
I'll second.
Thank you. All in favor? Say
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? Motion carries. We are adjourned. Thank you.